Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every damn word I have to say!
Welcome to the You, Me, and the Scene podcast, brought to you by Revival Recordings.
Hello, and welcome back to the You, Me, and the Scene podcast, brought to you by Revival Recordings. Thank you to everybody that tuned in last week for our introduction episode. We're excited to jump into some new topics this week. We want to talk about all the great band breakups and makeups, and the resurgence of the scene, and how that kind of ties into each other. Thought it would be perfect topics for an episode coming out the day before Valentine's Day. And so we're excited. We're going to have this episode and the next where you're just hanging out with us for, and then we will be hopping into some episodes with some special guests coming up shortly. So we're excited for that and, some new things.
Schedules permitting.
Yes.
Schedules permitting.
As long as everybody can record, but we'll make it happen.
That'll be fine.
I think to start things off, I think we have to talk about the My Chemical Romance comeback. I'm not as huge of a fan, but obviously we have several of us on here that are. So what did you guys think when you first heard that they were back?
I think, first of all, Taylor Swift is to Courtney as My Chemical Romance is to me.
Yes.
So
And me. I second that.
Yeah, that I am. The whole timeline of the My Chemical Romance breakup and following makeup, I think, is really key to the resurgence of the scene in the past couple of years, because they announced their comeback mere months before the entire world shut down, and that is a core memory in my smooth brain. So.
Yeah. Well, they announced that, and then they had that one show in LA at the Shrine.
Which was insane.
And I tried to get tickets.
Before we get there,
Then
let's talk about the breakup first.
Okay.
R.I.P.
I'm jumping ahead. Sorry.
I think I remember, honestly, where exactly I was the moment I found out that they broke up.
I
love that. Like, we have, our grandparents are like, I know where I was when I found out JFK got shot. And E is like, I know where I was when I found out my chem broke up.
Life-changing moments.
I was in my dorm room on my freshman year of college. I'm dating myself there. I was in my dorm room in college, and I was scrolling the internet, and I was just like, oh my god, they're done. But there was also a part of me that, because I was not, and I will live and die by this, I was not the biggest Danger Days fan, so I just was like, okay, this kind of makes sense that they're, ending things. It didn't go as well, I think, as the Black Parade did, and whatever. So I was like, okay, I guess that's the end of an era. But also, me personally, I was in the phase of, it was definitely a phase, Mom. You were right at that point. So I think I was like, who cares? My Chemical Romance broke up, but deep inside, 2020 me was losing her mind. Do you know what I mean?
So
Did we all have that low key couple years where we're like, okay, maybe it was a little phase?
Yeah.
First of all, I have no idea what you're talking about.
She's like, no. I feel like
I've been doing this whole time. Why?
She was like, it was a lifestyle.
we're gonna get yelled at for that.
Pants stayed on 24/7.
My chains were hanging low. Okay. All right.
Well, okay, so as E was saying that, I realized that I fully do not even remember the time period where my chem broke up, because in my brain, I thought I was still in high school when this happened. But if it was 2013, I was either in college or, depending on the month, I might have just dropped out of college. So I was, like, legally an adult. I don't remember how I felt, but I was in the same boat as E with...
Time is a social construct.
I was legally an adult, but I was doing stuff and things.
I was in the same I was in the same boat as E, where I really didn't care for Danger Days that much, and back in 2013 I kind of thought that everyone felt the same way. I was in a different part of the internet, I guess, but now on like TikTok and Twitter, there's a whole section of the fandom that are just as insane about Danger Days.
All they care about.
Yeah, which I cannot relate to. And also, right, I wrote this down in notes because I knew I was going to forget about it, but I don't know what was conventional weapons, and like, did they put out music under
It was separately. Yes.
Separately. So there was Danger Days.
It was
as a full album.
So after they released Danger Days, it was right towards the end of things where they said, okay, there's going to be one more album. I remember there was a rumor that there was going to be one more album, and everyone was like, oh my god, okay, one more album, and then they're done, to my recollection. And so then suddenly they were like, no, we're not going to have that last album, and Conventional Weapons ended up being the album, but it's really like an EP singles, kind of reminiscent of the Black Parade. I would be interested to know, because I do not know off the top of my head if some of those were supposed to be, because you know how like you had Heaven Help Us and My Way Home Is Through You and all of those were like the B-sides of the Black Parade. I'm not sure if Conventional Weapons were also related to the Black Parade, because I feel like they might have been.
See, there's an entire gap in my, because I was never, like, I went to a lot of shows when I was younger and stuff, but I was never really in, especially this new era of the MyChem fandom. I feel weird even using the word fandom, because I was just never, I don't mean I wasn't part of that. I just, like, I wasn't social with other fans, so I don't really know the stories or the rumors or anything that was going on. And there's a whole gap in my knowledge from the day Danger Days came out to them coming back. And somewhere in there, we all made fun of Joe Jonas for something. So,
I think, like, Danger Days itself, to me, was a transitional period for them. And it was also a transitional period for me. So I think I kind of get lost in that. And I get lost in that type of music because I just don't relate to it as much. And maybe that's just because it was more poppy and they were kind of going for something different. But, like, I just never fully understood the Danger Days thing. It's giving Umbrella Academy, and that's kind of where things stopped for me.
Which I also don't know much about Umbrella Academy either.
I only watched the first season with Nick in the office. So
I didn't watch any of it, but I heard it kind of fell off after that. It was like not.
I will say, deep in my memory core, so it was the first time that the Umbrella Academy was coming out. Gerard Way came to Newbury Comics on Newbury Street in Boston, and I begged and pleaded with my mother to bring me. And she took me out of school. She missed work and brought me to Newbury Comics to meet Gerard Way. And I think I about lost my mind. That is the second time I have said that tonight, and it will not be the last, because I truly did.
That is a real VIP treatment right there. Like, your mom is MVP.
No, she still is MVP for that. And that was not the last time that she missed work and took me out of school from My Chemical Romance. Okay. And that...
Hilary Duff concert was here, but that's, up here, okay? So...
The mama emo is... She was real. She was a real one.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that My Chemical Romance, their comeback, is it a comeback to stay? Or are they done after they toured?
No.
What's your thoughts?
A solid question.
I don't think they're... So they put out that song. Like, is there any...
that
have
one
they
song,
said anything about other new music. I feel like I haven't.
There's rumors. There's rumors in the rumorverse that there is an album coming.
But that's been a rumor, I feel like.
But that's been a rumor,
for a while.
but I just can't. I can't imagine that they did this huge tour and they did this huge like random drop of that song last year to just do nothing else.
Well,
it just would not be them.
A really key part of this, though, is they announced their comeback, and then the whole 2-year pandemic happened.
Right.
Which I think that has a lot to do with the way that it went down. Because maybe they were just planning to do a quick reunion tour, and that was it. But then everyone went absolutely feral over the pandemic, and none of us got to go to a concert for 2 years. And now it's a whole other animal that...
I don't think they can stop now.
I think they can.
We've been proven wrong before.
The fandom's still gonna sit there and like be like, when's the next? And I mean, a lot of bands get that still to this day that haven't put out music in freaking years and years, and you still have fans.
Oh, I don't know
okay,
anybody
but when
else
you
like
do it?
that.
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of times though, when you see bands come back, you always wonder, is this a comeback and you're going to be back, or is this a comeback because not necessarily that it's a money grab or anything like that, but is it just something that you're going to do? Like, for example, Finch, they just announced their 20th anniversary tour of this album. Although they're only playing like 4 or 5 dates. Now, I'm not saying that's a money grab, but they're obviously not coming back. It's just a reunion. It's just a reunion for this specific album.
Have we thought about asking Fall Out Boy?
Well,
What do you mean? Asking them what?
asking. I'm gonna call them up right now. Ask them
why don't you
directly.
just...
Well, because they went away and like they were like, no, like we're on it was like a hiatus.
Okay, well, we're
being on
getting
hiatus.
very far away from ourselves.
Yeah,
right
we'll get to our follow-up Boy.
I have a whole thing about Fall Out Boy.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
because I have a lot of thoughts on that too.
But I think that you said it was Finch that's doing that anniversary tour.
Yeah.
I think if My Chemical Romance came out the gate with this reunion and said, we're doing 5 shows of we're only playing 3 cheers, I think that would be a temporary comeback. But that's not at all what they did. They dropped a new song. Like, there's got to be something, or at least, I also think they would have said, like, hey, this is it.
I don't think they would have gone as theatrical at the When We Were Young festival if there wasn't more to come too, because they went all in with those elderly, stuff. So I just don't.
Side note, can we talk about how many people were sitting there and being like, they aged really badly, and me and you are looking at each other like, it's makeup. We just saw them like 2 months ago.
They were like, Gerard Way looks awful. Oh my god. It was just
funny.
We're like,
they were saying the same stuff about Tyson Ritter though, like
okay, well that's a whole different
thing. But they had the old people makeup on, and like a lot of people were like, oh, they got old, and I'm like, that's not what he looks like.
It was also they have they do these concept stuff, and it was like, this is a concept for them, like this whole performance is a concept, so like,
and the real fans know.
I thought it was
real
just
fans know.
I thought it was just a gag because it was called When We Were Young.
Yeah,
and
I think it
was a gag, but at the same time, a gag can be a concept, at least to me. So
it was definitely playing up on that, but definitely tied into
not Tyson, not
conceptual
Tyson
bits.
Yeah, because didn't Mikey Way not have?
Okay,
so
well, that's
no,
My Chemical Romance lore.
That is lore.
Let me explain the Mikey situation to you.
I'm trying to think. He didn't have makeup on, right?
Okay, nope. So he didn't have makeup on because in the
so they were playing on it.
For 3 cheers for Sweet Revenge, the Ghost of You video, they go to World War II. They're in World War II, and they storm Normandy, and he gets shot, and he ends up dying. So since that point, he's not aged, and he's always had a Medal of Honor on him because he died in battle. So even during the Black Parade status, like he's still young. He like doesn't have any blood on him. He looks exactly the same. They made him look exactly the same as in the Ghost of You. He has a medal on, and so when we were young, he doesn't have any elderly makeup on because he never aged.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And we picked up on
That's a real wormhole of things.
Meanwhile, Mikey Way was probably just like, I just didn't want to put the stuff on.
Yeah.
That's probably true.
This is where my Swiftie brain comes in, because we always make up conspiracies. So this is where we're like, no, this is what it ties into.
I did know about that bit of lore. That much I knew.
Yeah.
But
it's like, it's through everything. Even in like Danger Days and stuff, you can still see that pattern going through, which is interesting.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
But I think this is a good point to move on to the two elephants in the room, which are Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy.
Thrill House has a lot of thoughts on Panic at the Disco.
Just ramble them off.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's start with Panic, because I think that one will be quicker than the other one. You don't think so?
But I think so. I have a lot of feelings about the Panic at the Disco breakup, because even
break up with yourself.
Yeah, Brandon Urie woke up and looked in the mirror and was just like, "This is fucking done.
I'm over this, guys. I do not have high hopes anymore.
It is no longer my living." But yeah, so Panic at the Disco, basically, they have had several different iterations of the band. Ryan Ross and John Walker left Panic at the Disco in 2009, and the two arguably best albums that Panic at the Disco ever put out. That's mostly just my opinion, but if you look on the internet, it's kind of a fact. Pretty Odd and A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. Those are the two main breakthrough albums. And then after John Walker and Ryan Ross left, they put out
Vices and Virtues.
Yes, Vices and Virtues, and what was it? Too Weird, Too something.
Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die.
Right. Those two albums were Brendan Urie and the drummer Spencer Smith is his name, I think.
Yes.
And then he left in 2015 officially, I think. And then from then
at this point they had taken the exclamation point out as well, which was a huge deal.
Right.
Did I miss that?
Remember...
I don't even remember that happening.
Yeah, no, it was like, I think it was after Pretty Odd, or was it during Pretty Odd? They were like, no more.
It was during Pretty Odd.
Okay, so they were like, no more exclamation point, and everyone was like, why would you take the exclamation point out now? Like, you made your brand on that, and it was very odd. Pun intended.
I literally never picked up on that ever before.
Yeah.
I remember it being a big deal.
That's wild.
My point is, Panic at the Disco has largely been known as a solo act since Spencer Smith left basically since Spencer Smith, the drummer, left the band. There was another member, Dallin Weeks, who was in there for a little bit, but according to the Wikipedia, there's a section that says band and then a section that says solo act, and after Too Weird to Whatever, it says solo act.
Yeah, because that's when, was it Death of a Bachelor? Is that what it came out?
Yeah.
And that was definitely just Brendan Urie. But, in, like, the band he has is just basically the touring band.
Yeah, but they're good. Like, that's
they're good. I've seen them live, like, at one of a festival, and I saw them, and they're incredible. But, like, were they considered actual band members or just touring band?
They stopped playing a lot of the classic songs too. Like, they stopped playing Fever You Can't Sweat Out and Pretty Odd stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm correct, and you guys correct me, obviously, if I'm wrong, are you guys, is your thing about his breakup because he's saying it as a band instead of about himself, or is it something else?
Well, I'm just confused.
It's all of it.
All of the above. I'm just confused because he's like, we're, just banning, but like, is he gonna still put out solo stuff under him at some point?
Well, we're glossing over a few things here too. There's a
Yeah.
laundry list of allegations floating around that I don't even really know the extent of and don't feel comfortable talking about here, but that does have a lot to do with the public reaction to the quote-unquote breakup of Panic at the Disco. I just thought it was particularly goofy that he's like, yep, breaking up with myself. That's what all the memes were about, is Brendan Urie to Brendan Urie. I don't know. It was just weird timing with Fall Out Boy and the picture and what else was there? He put out an Panic at the Disco / Brendan Urie put an album out last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think he did,
And
yeah. Or
It got awful
2022.
reviews.
Yeah, it's not good. Or from my personal opinion, if somebody else likes it, do you? I don't know, but I didn't.
The timing, I'm sure on the outside it was a discussion that was already happening, but just the timing of the Fall Out Boy comeback and everything, it just seemed very weird. And
also, the fact that he just was not asked to go to any of these reunion, like, emo festivals at all, either to our knowledge, is just so interesting, because it was like you had these big bands that everyone really loved and adored, and it was like, well, where is Panic in all of this?
That's a good
In
point.
Las Vegas.
Yeah. Right, yeah,
I hadn't even thought of that.
That's a good point. I didn't really think of it either.
To be fair, it very well could have been any number of other things. It could have been like scheduling or writing or whatever he was doing, but I had not thought of that point until right now. So
yeah, it's just an interesting, like, side note, because it's just like it was in his hometown, or whatever he claims Las Vegas is to him, because I don't know and I don't really care, but it's just, it's just interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, there's definitely plenty of bands that we could sit there and be like, when that lineup came out, that we were like, how are you not including this, like,
well, yeah,
band?
Yeah.
But
then,
again, I wouldn't know anybody like that.
But even the second one now, like, even that they've announced another one, and they aren't on that one either, given I don't think it really fits the genre that they're really going for this time. But that still being said, they weren't included, he wasn't included, so.
And there's so much coming back now besides even just When We Were Young. I mean, Bamboozle's starting again.
Yeah.
Which is very cool.
Goes into the whole resurgence. It's like everything.
There's still a couple blurred out names on that lineup that I have no idea who they are.
I've been trying to figure those out too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting just because, like, when like these breakup things, like, some affect, you can see how some affects more than others. Like, to me, when he posted it, I was like, oh, I sent it to Andrew, my husband, because I know he likes them, and I mean, I listen to them casually as a fan, but to me, it didn't scream anything. Like, I didn't take it and think, oh, this is weird. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it was different for me.
I took it. I wasn't like deeply affected or offended because I haven't listened to anything Panic at the Disco has done since probably Death of a Bachelor, and the only reason I listened to Death of a Bachelor is because he was touring with Weezer at the time, and if you know me, you know I'm really insufferable about how much I like Weezer. What was I saying? I started talking about Weezer, and then I got sidetracked.
you black out.
You gotta listen to Panic at the Disco since.
And so I was mostly affected by it in the sense that it was just fun to gossip about and kind of make fun of because I don't really care. Meanwhile, I saw a girl crying on TikTok about how she's losing the community of the shows that she would go to when she saw Panic at the Disco. And as much as I wanted to make fun of her, I understand why that person feels the way that they do, but I also think you should probably find a different band to feel that way about. So.
I also feel like if you are in a community within, like, one of those major bands, you can easily be, like...
You don't lose that community.
Yeah, you just... There's plenty of other bands to find that. And I think that's also... I mean, I try not to judge anyone, because, like you said, like, there's bands that I am like that with, but sometimes I just question certain bands and the fan loyalty to them.
There's some people that are, like,
I mean, like,
very...
do you...
Yeah.
You know,
Like
sometimes
me with
I'm
Weezer. Can't explain it.
Weezer slaps.
I-
So
I was just trying to think about, like, you were talking about the girl on TikTok that was crying, and it got me thinking. I was like, what band would I cry about if they broke up? And I don't know that I have an answer for that, truthfully.
So, to be fair, any band that I would get upset over has already broken up and come back.
Yeah.
I've already done that.
True.
I think I've said this to E before. Like, I don't, like, even Taylor Swift could literally say, okay, I'm done making music, and I think I'd be like, that sucks. But I don't know that I would, like, be that, like,
Right.
upset. Like, you know what I mean? Because you still have all the music, like, that she has put out, and
Right.
it's not like she's gonna fall off the face
Yeah.
of the earth, but it's just, like,
Right.
I've never, even bands that, like, are my favorite bands or favorite artists, I've just never gone to that level of, like...
See, so
Maybe
that's
that's just a me
exactly, it's
thing?
the same exact, it's the same
Yeah.
thing we were saying about My Chemical Romance, though. It's like the music that we deeply connected with, that My Chem put out, they had
Still
already put out years ago,
Yeah.
and it's still there, and we can still enjoy it. So it doesn't hurt as much to think that they're not doing new stuff. Because honestly, I'm thinking of Fall Out Boy in particular here, because I had the same feelings about the Fall Out Boy breakup and comeback that I did about the My Chem breakup and comeback, where I wasn't as into Folly Do, so I wasn't that upset when they went on hiatus. And then they came back, and I truthfully didn't like the music that they were putting out then, but the music they're putting out now, I am over the moon about. But we
Yeah.
can get to that at a different point. But the idea of these bands having music that I've deeply connected to out already, and it's always going to be there, makes it sting less. So
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, it's interesting. Like, I mean, we could go off on a whole, like, tangent just about it and about, like, fandoms themselves, but it's just, it's a very interesting topic to me to, like, because, like, I agree with, like, the community, because there's a lot of, like, shows I go to, and you just meet, and you're like, oh, this person's just like me, and wants to just sit here and listen to live music, and feel it, and, like, just be in this moment, and there's something special about that, but you can always find it in a new artist.
Yeah.
I feel like music itself is always gonna be relatable,
Right.
and you're always
Right.
gonna find someone you relate to.
I think
That's
it's
true.
also a lot easier now with different social media stuff to find that community as well. Because I mean,
Yeah.
like, look at Bad Omens or Sleep Token. Their communities blew up in a matter of a few weeks, and it's everyone is banding together, being like, "This is amazing. This is such good music," and you
Yeah.
know, there you go. There's someone new that you can relate to.
And I think,
Right.
yeah, social media, even like Amanda on the last episode talking about like still talking to people from Vampire Freaks and stuff. It's like once you meet those people, like I have so many people on my Instagram that I just randomly met at shows that I like never talked
Yeah.
to, but I'll just like their posts and be like, oh, we're all still going to shows and rocking it and like having a good time, and
there's
you
people,
still have that.
I mean, I guess it's different, like, just touring with Alisana, there's people who are Alisana fans who have ended
Yeah.
up being, like, very near and dear to me.
Yeah.
That, like, I would understand if I were to, God forbid, quote unquote, lose that community. It's not like those people are gone, you know? Like, it just, I don't know, it seems very arbitrary to make this band breaking up a big ceremonious thing.
I do feel like there's a difference too in like when Alisana tours, they're in smaller venues than, you know, when you go see My Chem and stuff. So you're in that like more close-knit community that a lot of bands, you know, in the scene still tour that way. That like, you know, you can talk to the band after, you see the same people at the shows every time the band comes through, but like, you know, when we're seeing My Chem, me and E went to TD Garden, like, you know, you're not here.
We were still talking to people.
We were still
though,
talking to
like-
people, and like we met up with some people, but it's like, all right, well, I gotta run to the other side of the arena. I'll be right back. Like,
Yeah. No, yeah.
so it's
that's
not
fair.
the same. So I think that makes a difference in like the size of the band, and not to say
But
like,
also,
you know,
we were like talking to people in back of us,
not
and
like
we
the
were
size
like,
of the band, because like,
but
you know, these
we were
bands
talking
are
to
still
people in
huge,
back
so.
of us, and we were like, oh my God, is this new music? And they were like, no. Well, we don't know. But
Yeah,
also,
they weren't really, and it was
it was new music, but
it was, but yeah, so I think that makes a difference, but. And like I said, not like the size of the band, because like, you know, just in terms of their touring like size, I guess.
Yeah, and which makes the girl crying about Panic at the Disco make even less sense, because
Right.
that's not a band you can talk to after the show, typically.
Gen Z and below, I think, aren't as used to going to venues and having that accessibility just because of how things have been the last few years. And so, like, you know, we've all been to shows, we've driven to shows, we've had them right there at our fingertips, and it's like, well, they haven't had that, or it hasn't been the same because a lot of the music kind of like died down in recent years, and now since, you know, the pandemic, there's been such a resurgence that it's like, okay, everyone's going to shows again all at once and experiencing that for the first time, which I think kind of makes a difference in some of this.
Yeah, I think it's strange sometimes when, like, we talk about the fan when a band breaks up. That's either kind of like us, where we're like, oh well, okay, but we still have their music, or we have the ones that like TikTok girl, which we should figure out what her name is.
No, we shouldn't tag her if we're.
No, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
I
tag
don't-
her.
Shouldn't
TikTok
post.
girl
TikTok
that's
girl.
crying. But you see, there's a, I don't know if it's a small portion of fans, but sometimes you see fans that get really angry and mad and completely go the opposite way when bands break up because of the breakup. And it's interesting because it's almost like you love this band, and now granted, sometimes it may be valid reasons. But I think
Yeah.
more times than not, it's they're breaking up because they're wanting to change directions. They're wanting to do different things with their lives, and fans getting mad at them for doing that. It's like,
Which is
Well,
all
I think-
fair. Like, it's all
I also
fair
would like
thing.
to say,
yeah,
between the four of us, I think we've all uniquely had experiences where we've seen fans get angry at bands for way smaller things than breaking up.
Oh yeah.
right.
Yes.
So those
Yes.
people exist out there.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it's not.
you always have those people on the internet too. Like, it's always going to be
Right.
there.
And
Unfortunately,
it's like, especially when you're such, quote unquote, a fan, to sit there and like, if someone wants to take, like, they have every right to go in a different direction. They have every right to stop
Right.
what they're doing and, quote unquote, get a new job. Just like if we wanted a new one, like, it's all
In this
it's
economy?
all,
Yeah.
like, no, we're all stuck together.
oh
But
my goodness.
it's all like ties into each other, but it is all very interesting to just like look at as a whole of how that's reacted to. And sometimes bands have just run their course. I'd rather
Yeah.
a band be done than put out shitty music and
No,
lose
that's
like
true.
what made them important to us. Like, that's just my take. I don't know if that's a hot take, but
No, that's
Let's talk
a
about
very
from
valid
first to last.
segues right into it. I do remember when that was it 2017 when they dropped that new music when Sunny came back, and I did like the
Is
song.
that
Surrender.
definitely Sunny on there?
Wait, was it
That's-
2017? I need to. Yeah, no, because he came back.
wait.
I gotta say-
I wrote this down.
Wait.
Hold on.
I gotta
Hold
say,
on.
I don't
did.
know much about From First to Last in general, so I'm gonna step back a little bit for this and
Well,
let them.
all right. I did write it down because in 2010 they went on their quote-unquote hiatus.
Right.
Then they got back together in 2013 without Sunny. Then Sunny rejoined in 2017 and dropped that single Surrender, and the rest, what was it? Make War?
Make War.
Yeah. And
That's Sunny Moore?
yeah, but Sonny Moore, I
No.
mean, he went and was Skrillex, so
Well, yes, I
you know.
understand that he was Skrillex, and
Yeah,
he's now
so
just making a comeback as well. He
yeah.
just did like a whole
I know.
interview and
Came
stuff
back looking
about
all
that, which
different.
is very well.
So-
Yeah, he looks like Jon Snow taking Dorne, but like whatever.
But they came back with him, dropped that album, and then kind of just that was it.
I
Which
am
is
losing my
which
mind.
is like talking about bands that just come back and do like a one-off.
Wait.
Maybe that.
So that was a full album that came out in 2017? Because I
I-
just remember hearing those
you know
two
what?
songs.
Let me
I have Spotify pulled up. I got
Oh,
it. I
okay.
got it. I got it.
because I do know that there was more than just. Was it just that single?
I'm pretty sure
Or
it was
just a couple, or was it an
two
EP?
Make
songs.
War is a single.
Oh, it's just two singles because Surrender was a single and Make War was a single.
Surrender was 2018. Make War was 2017, and those are probably the most god awful songs I have ever heard in my entire life.
You know what? Sometimes I like bad music. There.
Hot take.
I said it. Sometimes I like bad
Again.
music.
Again,
Hot
huge
take.
Weezer fan. So
You know, like sometimes it's okay.
You would file that under guilty pleasure because
Yeah, I mean,
you
like-
feel guilty because you like it.
I did listen to Surrender like a lot. I don't know. Maybe it was just like.
Oh no, okay,
bad.
okay. I haven't listened to Surrender I have not. I'm
I might
talking
have to
about
go back.
Make
I haven't
War.
listened to
that
it
one
since it
is
came out, but-
cringy and awful and bad.
I gotta say I did not enjoy Make War. I made
I don't even remember
before we
what
started
Make War sounds
recording,
like.
I was saying that I don't believe that the same person who wrote Note to Self wrote Make War.
No, that's
Right.
fair.
Which, for all I know, it could have
Maybe.
been an entirely different. I don't know.
Now I gotta look up the lyrics to that because let me tell you.
But that's another band that never definitively said that they were.
Yeah,
that was it.
like-
or,
Right.
Because they did.
Right.
They dropped those two singles in 2017-18 and then just like went silent. So it's like bands. I also think at this day and age, bands don't have to drop full albums. They can just drop singles whenever they please, whenever they want to. A lot of artists even just do that now, or one-off singles. And because we have streaming and all that, it's easy to do. And they can just
Yeah.
pop in whenever they want. And I mean, they don't have to drop full-length albums because we don't have to go to the store to buy them. Like, so
Well, I think you can. I think
makes a
that
difference.
that you can do that if you're a big enough band,
yeah,
like, and it
Yeah,
make
right.
an impact. If you're not a
Yeah.
big band and you go away and you come back, you're gonna lose your audience.
And there's a whole those are other TikTok holes you could fall down about people debating the
Yeah.
topic of single versus albums, which I don't think I even know enough of either side to have an opinion, so I'm not going to get into
I
that.
think
But people have a lot of
sometimes-
opinions.
I think like some artists just have a single that doesn't, even if they're working on an album that doesn't fit into the album, but they still want that song out there, and that's okay.
Like My Chemical Romance with their B-sides off the Black Parade, and some of those songs were arguably better than the rest of the album. Can I also just mention, circling back, going off of Bamboozle, I had a thought because I said, oh my god, Armor for Sleep played their last show at Bamboozle in 2012, which I was there for, and now Armor for Sleep is back officially, which is really cool, but they came back in 2020 as well, which is really awesome. And then also going off of that, Envy on the Coast, I think I saw the lead singer's like secondary band at Bamboozle in 2012, but like they broke up in 2010 and now they're back as well doing stuff, which is really exciting. But those were like devastating ones for me because I loved both bands and I still do love both bands.
There's this one band, they're not like a scene nostalgia band or anything. They're called Jacketless, that I think they formed, according to going off of their Spotify releases, they were only around from 2020 to 2022. But they had put out 2 EPs and had just recently put out a really sick EP. The first one was called Hot Lemonade and the second one was called After Hot Lemonade. And they're both really good. But then August of last year, 2022, they just randomly announced that they had creative differences and were breaking up after their headliner show. And I never got to see them, and it made me really sad. And they have shown no signs of coming back. So,
Oh,
That's sad.
it's the worst.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that I think with like all those shows and the resurgence that was supposed to happen in 2020 and then got pushed off, kind of pushed the resurgence even more, because I think it hyped it up. I think a lot of bands during that downtime kind of hopped on like, oh, the scene's coming back, let's do something, like, type of thing. And it like really built it up during that time. And also, not that I want to credit TikTok or Gen Z at all, because whatever, but they kind of have their own little emo-y like surgence that happened on TikTok. I mean, I'm not gonna hate, you know, new fans for bands and new generations are always good to, you know, keep the bands going. But I think like that also, like the Gen Z kind of pushed it too, because they have like, you know, some of their big influencers that are more emo-y, or you have like that kind of vibe that they were trying to like push out. So I think that like helped. And then, you know, it kind of just all, I think as much as COVID sucked, there's a lot of things timing wise that would not have worked out or been like what they are if that time didn't happen.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
5,000%.
For musicians, for
Right.
like a lot of things, I think that time and having just everything politically, economically, like, you know, society in general, just really everything was in place to go where we are now, especially in the music scene. And I think a lot of things got called out during that time in the music scene that was really great. So that's my take.
Yeah.
A lot of good music came from 2020. A lot of people just got stuck inside and were like, let's just write, and like
Right.
it's showing. It's so good and so meaningful, and I love that it kind of brought us all back to our roots and kind of what we really liked and didn't like. And so now we have these artists that we all kind of were like, okay, like they're kind of on the outs, and now, you know, with Fall Out Boy 2, we're like, they're back. They're coming out with good stuff again. This is great, and I would credit that to 2020.
I am interested to see, because with the first single, we were all like, oh, Fall Out Boy is back. Like, that's the Fall Out Boy we want to hear. And then they made, in an interview, was like, it's not the same. So I'm interested to hear. I mean, like, after, like, their third album, I would say I liked, like, some songs, but I didn't like full albums after that.
Yeah.
Of theirs.
Well,
so I'm interested to see.
I think, so just to tie in how we were talking about before, how fans could get really angry about things that they don't like, I think that particular comment, Patrick Stump was just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Don't set your expectations on this old nostalgic album, because he doesn't want to, you know, deal with the backlash that if, God forbid, he tries to put a pop-sounding song on this new record. However, all of the singles that they've released so far, I like millions of times more than anything they've done in the past decade. So.
And you know what? Hot take again. Bands are allowed to change their sound.
Oh, that's not a hot take.
Within reason.
Well, it's not. Well, like some people. To some people, it is. Some people, like we said, get mad.
Okay,
like,
well, I did just say within reason. Like, there comes a point where it's just like, okay, Panic at the Disco. You had this incredible first album that was so good and so unique and brought in so many different elements. And then now you have whatever that album he put out last year, and it's just so far away from where he started that it's just not Panic at the Disco anymore.
It's so funny to see, because every band that's been around for more than 10 years has this exact same conversation. Because there's, like, Weezer is the exact same, not the exact same because they haven't had, like, the lineup changes or the scandals of Panic at the Disco, but they're another band that's just, like, one or two perfect albums, and what they're doing now is so far beyond whatever. I like a lot of the new stuff. A lot of people really don't, which I get. But it's the same. Every band has the fans that love all the new iterations and the fans that don't understand why it's not 2008 anymore.
I think we talk about that a lot, just like within us too, just bands. Their first 2 albums are that what skyrockets them. That is what people go back to and listen to time and time and time again. So when it's not that same thing, or people like evolve from that, it's like a nostalgia thing. But it's like, you know.
Well, then you like, and then you have Bring Me the Horizon, who have gone from being deathcore
Yeah.
to now being more poppy. But I can say I probably like all of it because it's all very good to me, and I can jam out to it. But like, that's not to say it is not vastly different from where they started.
I think as long as you do it right. And then there's some bands that I think could change a little bit. I might get hate for this one. I think like Blink-182 could maybe
You're
I agree with you.
so far.
I agree with
change
They're
a little
so
bit
far.
because when they dropped like the album California and all that, I kind of was like, well, we're a little older, like we were listening to them and like singing along, and like, you know, I mean, we were younger than 23, but
Yeah.
we like, but then it didn't mature, and they're still just talking about the same things that they did when they're 23, if that makes sense. On so, I mean, not
I
on
also
every
think
song.
that's for the genre, though. I mean,
yeah.
you have pop punk guys doing pop punk things for the pop punk life that they lead. Like, you're not going to get away from that.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think, like, as much as we want nostalgia, we are a little older, so, like, there are some things you don't have to, like, resort back to just because it worked before. Doesn't always work.
That being said, I don't think anyone would have been upset if Panic at the Disco had broken up 6 months earlier.
Or 6 years earlier.
Oh gosh.
I mean, like I said, like, sometimes I like bad music, and I think sometimes we can all sit back and enjoy bad music, or from our perspective, bad music, so.
I used to listen to Broken Side, like, in earnest, so I get it.
Hey, yo! Hey, yo! Don't even get me started.
I'm trying to think, like,
We see 13!
other bands within the scene that, like, broke up, and not even got back, because, like, when we talked about doing this topic, I was thinking of, like, something corporate, and, like, as much as, like, you know, then turns into Jack's Mannequin, and then turns into Andrew and the Wilderness, or whatever it is now, and stuff like that, but it's, like, they actually announced, like, disbanding, like, they're not something corporate, like, so, like, bands like that, where it's, like, those musicians still are doing different projects.
Well, that's like Circus Survive as well. Because haven't we determined that Circus Survive is also either on hiatus or done, or...
I think it's indefinite hiatus.
And okay,
Well-
so then you have that, but now you have LS Dunes with Anthony Green, so it's like, okay, he's not gone.
Right.
And, like, Frank Iuro's had several albums and
8,000
projects.
bands.
Yeah.
Leathermouth, Pensy Prep.
Dude, I've been listening to that Leathermouth record a lot over the past year.
It's
very
good.
I didn't like that kind of music because that came out in, like, 2009. I was not into that, like, punkier sounding, rougher type music in 2009, and now I'm like, hook it up to my veins.
It's so good.
Yeah, so, I mean, we just rambled on and on about bands, breakups, makeups, and the resurgence of the scene. Hopefully it all comes together and makes sense to you, but we want to know, what was the most heartbreaking band breakup that you've experienced? Which one really got you in your feels? That's what we want to hear. So drop it in the comments, and, you know, maybe we forgot one that we should have brought up. But
You probably did.
We did. We definitely did.
There's
Yeah.
Definitely did.
definitely a lot of them. I mean, some of them not as prolific as others, but you know, drop them in the comments. Let us know.
Are we ready to do Song of the Week? Are we at that point?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh.
Hey, Lee.
I'm gonna go with so thinking about it in terms of this one, whether it be a breakup or a love song. I'm gonna go with love song. And I'm gonna say my song of the week this week is 40 Days by Bless the Fall.
Nice.
It was
Well, that's such a good one.
I know.
It's
It
not
was
fair.
I picked it, if you care to know, I picked it because it was mine and my husband's song, like our song, because we were long distance our whole relationship until we got married. So we always went back to that song for it.
Long
That's so
distance relationships.
sweet.
Yeah, so
Stop.
I can't stop. Won't stop. Anyways.
Alright.
Amanda, what about you?
If we're talking love song or breakup song, I'm gonna go breakup song, obviously, and I'm gonna go with Bulletproof Love by Pierce the Veil, and I don't think that needs an explanation because of how I look and
good.
who I am as a person. So
It is good.
So good.
It's a good one. All right,
well,
Courtney.
I'll go love song, and since Haley picked her and Andrew's song, I'll throw the one that I always say is me and Brandon's song, and it's Follow You by Bring Me the Horizon. And yeah, I would pay a sick amount of money for Ollie Sykes to just freaking record that acoustic version. That's
Acoustic
seeing that
versions are so
live
good.
is top tier. So
well, obviously
once
he's listening.
yeah.
Ollie Sykes.
Yeah, Ollie Sykes, I need you to record the acoustic version of Follow You so that I can play it at my future wedding one day. That's what I need.
Ooh. Brandon, are you listening?
That's my request.
Brandon, bring her.
That's my shout out. Let's do it.
All right, wrap us
Well,
up, E.
My partner and I have not been together long enough to have a song. However, that being said, and I cannot for the life of me remember what they renamed themselves, so forgive me, but Down for the Ride by Slaves is such a good song. I love it, and it's definitely like a nice little love song, in my humble opinion.
Damn, I should have picked a song with my cat or something. Shit.
Shout out Luann.
She's
Luann.
Oh, there she
I love
is.
Luann.
Oh, there's an Excision song that's all about cats.
Oh my gosh.
Hold on.
Find
Throw
it.
that
We'll
one on the
throw it on the
playlist, too.
playlist. Yeah, we'll add that to the playlist too. Don't worry.
Oh my god, what is it called? All right, sorry.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in this week. Like we said, we'll probably have one more episode where you're stuck with just the four of us, and then maybe some special guests, which will be exciting.
That's a hard maybe because we're not positive on any of our scheduling.
Well, we'll get someone. They might just be in not the order.
We have people.
They might just not
We
be in the
do.
order that we planned, but we got people lined up, and so we're excited for those episodes, for you guys to hear those chats, and yeah, I mean, like, subscribe, comment. All our socials are up and running, and let us know what you thought of this episode. All right.
Also,
bye,
happy
guys.
Valentine's Day.
Oh,
Happy
yes.
Valentine's
Happy
Day.
Happy
Valentine's
Valentine's Day.
Okay, Amanda.
All right. Well,
All right.
thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the You, Me, and the Scene podcast. New episodes are released every other Monday.